Hey everybody, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jesse.
You're watching Disruptive Investing. And last week, we took delivery of our Cybertruck. Thank you. We've been waiting for a long time.
We were live streaming at the Cybertruck Unveil event at Tesla's design studios in Hawthorne, California, back on November 19th, 2019. That was 52 months ago.
Now, when I saw the Cybertruck roll up on the stage, I was streaming with one phone over my head, and I took my other phone out, and I was like, okay, I got to order. Oh, wait, I got to keep that focus. Oh, I got to order. And I basically pre-ordered that one, except that Tesla's Wi-Fi or website or whatever crashed. But within 3 minutes, I had placed my order. We were like number 20 on the list.
Our VIN number shows us that our Cybertruck is about 6,000th built at Giga Texas.
So we had driven in the prototype that night at the event. Mm-hmm. We also got to see a few up close when we live streamed the Cybertruck delivery event in Austin, in Texas in November last year.
But we didn't own one yet, like we have with our Rivian R1T and Ford F-150 Lightning.
We've been waiting to start making definitive statements about the Cybertruck until we actually had it in hand.
We are still not Cybertruck experts yet. We have only had it for a few days, but I now think it's safe to say that Cybertruck is the most advanced pickup truck on the market. Whether you want to compare it to a gas-powered or electric-powered pickup truck, this stainless steel electric pickup truck is going to disrupt the pickup truck market for the following reasons, in no particular order.
Let's just start with stainless steel, since that's like the most obvious thing about it, right? So I was a contractor once back years ago. You know what I liked about my old Dodge van? Do you remember that old van? It was a hand-me-down. I didn't need to take much care about it, dinging it or scratching it up. I had already had plenty of those, right? I could load it up with DJ equipment or construction tools and not worry about keeping it looking like a show car. But with the Ford Lightning and the Rivian R1T pickups, I feel like they have to be pampered. Watch where you drive them, not too close to the brambles and the tree branches so they'll get scratched. Oh no. But with the Cybertruck, it's f***ing thick stainless steel.
Well, but I mean, the other thing about your Dodge Ram truck is that you had to stop driving it because the frame rusted out.
Right.
I mean, you literally would have kept...
I still have it.
Yeah.
I love that thing. I loved it.
Because it had cargo space and you didn't care what it looked like.
Right.
But I mean, I think that this is where the stainless steel will keep it looking nicer and won't rust out.
Do you remember that door? I mean, we just kept adding Bondo every year, you know.
You were adding like aluminum tape. The whole thing was rusting to
Exactly.
It was falling apart.
Right.
And you had to get rid of it because of that. So the stainless steel may not seem that disruptive, but it is. I mean, sure, DeLorean was made out of stainless steel 40 years ago, but that was just for the aesthetic. It wasn't hardened stainless steel. It wasn't bulletproof. This is a pickup truck.
Stainless steel that doesn't dent or rust is exactly what pickup trucks should be made out of. You get to skip the paint, right, which saves a lot of money, and you get all the utility that stainless steel has to offer.
And if you think that this was easy for Tesla to do, it wasn't. They had to invent a new stainless steel alloy that never existed before to get just the right amount of strength, pliability, and rust-proofedness. It's brilliant, and they're going to make all other trucks seem like toys.
So I thought this was a really interesting post here. Brandon said the 2024 Tesla Model 3 Performance at $53,990 versus the 2024 Ferrari 12-cylinder $400,000 plus car, right? Tesla has 510 horsepower, does 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds. The Ferrari has 830 horsepower, does 0 to 60 in the same amount of time, 2.9 seconds. Tesla value kills Ferrari, plus Model 3 front looks better.
Elon said the new Model 3 Performance is awesome, and I think that this brings up a really important point.
Yeah, it's not that we're saying that a Ferrari affording consumer will necessarily buy the Model 3 Performance. It's that a Ferrari is aspirational, right? You put the poster up in your room and you go, someday I'll own that sports car.
And you won't own that sports car.
Now, consumers that are way further down that economic ladder who aspire to own a Ferrari can afford a Ferrari killer, the Model 3 Performance.
Right.
And that leads to the next disruptive thing about Cybertruck, Tesla's manufacturing. I know, it's not sexy like a Ferrari or a Model 3 Performance, but Tesla spends a lot of effort on streamlining their manufacturing and bringing in-house as much of the production of parts as possible.
By building the machines that build the machines, Tesla becomes almost fully vertically integrated, which over time dramatically drives down the cost per unit. Tesla may only be building 1,000 Cybertrucks per week, but they've only been at it for a few months. Rivian, on the other hand, is producing about 1,000 vehicles per week, and they've been at it for 3 years.
Yeah, as Tesla ramps production, I promise you, Tesla will reduce costs and will pass those costs on to consumers. And as we've talked about many times, as you reduce the price of a vehicle by $5,000, you double the number of people who can afford it. So just like the Ferrari and the Model 3 Performance, Cybertruck is now aspirational, and it will slowly become affordable to many people. So I predict within 4 years, it will dethrone the Ford F-150.
Let's hop over to Cybertruck's tonneau cover. I should say let's hop on it, maybe.
Yeah, I've seen you just jump on it at the supercharger. It's so fun. It's revolutionary, in my opinion. I thought that Rivian's tonneau cover on the R1T was going to be hard to beat. In fact, it was one of my favorite features of the R1T until they started breaking. Ours is going in for replacement in a couple weeks. It's clanky and it's prototypey.
Cybertruck's tonneau cover is solid, elegant, fast, and strong. It makes you feel safe putting your tools and stuff in the bed, and it turns a pickup truck bed into more of a bed/cargo space.
Yeah, and I just want to talk about this because we've been showing it off whenever people stop by to see it at Superchargers, and they're like, so this is an SUV? And we're like, boop, hit the button, tonneau cover goes up, and like, oh wait, it's a pickup truck?
I've been showing it to non-truck people, and they go like, oh, it's an SUV with a gigantic trunk. And I'm like, that is one way that you could look at it.
I think the problem is American pickup trucks have been a thing, an American status thing for so long that I think all those companies decided, like, don't touch it. Leave it as a bed, right? Because if we
change it, then it'll look different.
It'll look different.
People are dumb and they won't know what to think about it, and we have to control what they think.
Exactly. And I think what Cybertruck is doing is it's evolving that to being like, well, you can use it for more than just putting gravel in the back, right? The whole point to me of a bed that makes it amazing is that yes, you can open it up and pour things in it, or that you can cover those things and keep them safe and dry. And the fact that most other pickup trucks, you have to buy a separate tonneau cover, which is usually like a folded thing or an accordion or a Velcro.
And then you have to fold it up and put it somewhere.
Right. And then it's made usually of like cardboard and foam, so it's not going to keep someone from just ripping it off and stealing your stuff. This is integrated into the truck. This holds a person. This is amazing.
When pickup trucks were invented, it was what, the 30s? The 40s, right? We didn't have as much inside stuff.
Yeah, it was just like a plank you put on the back. It was just a flatbed.
Right. And I mean, I just want to point out, like, you look at pictures of the insides of people's homes in the 30s and 40s, right? And there was less stuff in those houses. So there's less inside stuff. Today, most stuff that you're going to be moving around is inside stuff. It's not goats and
It's,
like
it's TVs, it's microwave ovens, things you need to keep dry.
So when you're moving stuff around, you want that stuff to be inside.
Again,
right?
Look, we didn't want to start spouting off about the Cybertruck's tonneau cover until we had the Cybertruck and we started using it.
We just picked up our first load of cargo in the bed last week. It was raining out. We kept our cargo dry and safe in the bed. It was nicely protected by the tonneau cover. My hat's off to the Tesla engineers for coming up with a design that actually works and actually gives you enough cargo space. Another thing about the Rivian is the bed is so short, and then you put that tonneau cover over it, and so you have to have something that's like, oh, it's 18 inches tall. It's like, what is 18 inches tall most of the time? Nothing.
Right.
Next up, let's talk about drive-by-wire. Cybertruck is the first production vehicle to have drive-by-wire. That is, with a system that doesn't have a physical mechanical connection between the steering wheel and the wheels. This reduces weight, it allows for computer-controlled steering, and in the Cybertruck, at slow speeds, the steering ratio is increased so you don't have to turn the wheel so much to make the wheels turn a lot.
And Cybertruck has rear wheel steering. All right, what is that?
That is basically you turn the wheel to the left, and the front wheels turn to the left, and the rear wheels turn to the right. And what that does is it allows you to make much tighter turns, and it makes it a lot easier to maneuver. And I've been experiencing this myself because I have been driving around the Rivian and I've been driving around the Ford. The Rivian, on a good day, I can park it in a parking space in between other cars. The Ford, on a good day, I can't do that.
Yeah,
I literally cannot park the Ford because most parking lots, you have the aisle, right, where everyone's supposed to be driving, and then you have the parking spaces, and there's a certain amount of distance there. And the geometry of the Ford, I can drive the Ford all the way till I'm scraping the quarter panels on the cars on the right, and I can time it just right and turn the wheel all the way. It's like 6 turns to move the wheel of the Ford. And then I can pull in, and I will either hit the other cars. I don't hit them, but I mean, I would have hit the cars, or I don't make it. I don't ever make the turn.
A common question we get is, which truck do you like best, right?
It's the Cybertruck.
And I will say a lot of times, like, oh, the Ford has a great, truck feel, whatever. But when I actually have to decide about which one to get into to go someplace, this thought comes to my mind, which is what you just talked about, the parking. Because that's the reality of worlds, right? The world is parking. So I go, oh God, I'm going to have to park. That's stupid to have to think. With the Cybertruck now, and I just want to talk about the hard numbers here, because you might be like, well, it's just a feeling. No. The Cybertruck has a tight turning radius, which just got updated, by the way, with an over-the-air software update. They shaved another 1.6 feet off the turning radius. So it is now 41.9 feet versus the Ford F-150, which has 47.8 feet. It's about 10% better turning radius, all because of that on the rear wheels, and that can keep getting better because those rear wheels could actually go up to 11 degrees, but they're not actually doing that yet. And so there's a lot of conjecture that maybe as the software allows and their testing allows, they will actually increase that, which could make a huge difference. I want to jump to something that Ron Barron, the investor, a big Tesla investor, said the other day. He was talking about the fact that Tesla motors now cost Tesla about $1,000 to make.
Versus a motor?
A motor.
Not because Tesla Motors used to be the name of the company.
I'm sorry. Yes. the actual electric motor costs them about $1,000 to make because it's completely vertically integrated. They make the motors themselves. Versus their competition, if you take BMW or Mercedes or one of those other companies, they're generally spending about $5,000 per motor. Now, you might be like, well, it's only a $4,000 difference. Yeah, but if you have 2, 3, 4 motors on a car, that's a huge increase in expense. So that means the other manufacturers are like, can we get away with one? Whereas Tesla can be like, hey, throw another one on there.
Wow.
And that's just one little piece of the disruption. Let's talk about power. Because I know a lot of people have said, well, I looked at the numbers and Cybertruck's not that much more powerful. In fact, it's less powerful in some ways. The Ford F-150 Lightning has 580 horsepower or 775 pound-feet. Rivian R1T with the quad motor has a lot more. It has 835 horsepower or 908 pound-feet. And the Cybertruck dual motor, which we have, has 525 pound-feet or 593 horsepower. So, yes, the Rivian does have more. It has more motors. But here's the thing. We're going to be testing it against our other trucks. But essentially, it has more than enough power for most applications because what I'd like to compare this to are the gas models of trucks. If you take the F-150 gas-powered truck, that has 325 to 400 horsepower, depending on the model you get, and 400 to 500 pound-feet of torque. So you can already see that Cybertruck is beyond that, which means that that's what we really need to compare it to. It has more power than you need. It's like a Ford F-250 in many applications.
And if you want more power, you can get the Cyber Beast tri-motor version.
Little thing I'd like to throw out there. I know that all electric trucks now very soon will be able to use the supercharger network. I think that has dramatically changed my view of the Ford and the Rivian now that they can supercharge. But of course, the Cybertruck can natively use the supercharger network, which means that they can charge at any supercharger there is. Whereas at the moment,
they won't block stalls.
It won't block stalls. Right now, the Rivian and the Ford can't charge at every supercharger, only certain ones. So I would just say still advantage Tesla here. The Cybertruck just has no range anxiety problems whatsoever. No. And so all this talk about towing. Towing's the big one. Oh my God, you're going to lose a lot of range in the winter. You're going to lose a lot of range if you're towing. Sure, except that there's charging everywhere. So if you don't mind going get a cup of coffee and going to the bathroom, it's not a big deal. Okay, full self-driving. It is not yet available on the Cybertruck. It is something that Tesla is still getting their final neural net stuff going, and so we can't test it, but we have tested it on our Model 3, the latest 12.3 version, and oh my God, please. Disruptive investor. We've talked about FSD. Get yourself into a Tesla. Go to your friend. Go to a Tesla store. They want to show it to you now. So go test it out and then report back here. Comment down below what you thought. I think it's unbelievable and getting better. I think this is the big unknown for most people because they don't know what we're talking about.
They barely know about what the Cybertruck is.
Right.
I've been driving around. I haven't stopped driving the Cybertruck. I think I've put... I'm going to check. I think I've put over 500 miles on the truck since we got it
Wednesday?
less than a week ago.
Yeah,
583 miles since we picked it up, and we picked it up with like 6 miles on it. So, I've done a lot of travel in it, and so many people have no idea what it is. So when I park it, they don't know. But yeah, full self-driving is going to be a game changer that no other truck has.
I just want to go to like drive quality and the visibility, right? Because a lot of people might be like, who cares? We're all the same. No, they're not. Actually, by not having that huge front nose that normally would be full of engine, now having this way closer, cab forward design, you get a much more van-like, like I used to drive a van. I loved it because the visibility is incredible, right? You can pull right up to things, you know where the nose is. It just feels like you're in command of the vehicle. Also, the air suspension, it feels so nice.
Especially, I will say, between the pedal The pedal on the Cybertruck, I know that it had a recall, whatever, they fixed it. It feels so great. On the Rivian, you have to bury your foot into the bottom of it feels like you're punching your foot through the bottom of the floorboards in order to floor the thing, which means that you hardly ever do it because it's actually hard to physically do with your foot.
And you get this like slight delay.
There's a delay. The same thing with the Ford, there's a delay, and the Ford is so wibbly wobbly anyway. I never floor it. The Cybertruck just feels like it just my mind
of yourself
is connected. In between that and the steering, normally you're like steering the car. With this, you're just like, it feels like my mind is just connected into the car Neuralink style.
I want to talk about an experience that we had when we picked up the vehicle in Tesla Peabody. We were walking around the car having
Before
fun.
we even had the license plate on it.
A guy pulls up in a Silverado. He's obviously just got off from work. He's, I think, a metal worker, and he just left his door open, and he just ran over to us, and he's like, "What is this?"
Yes.
I saw one yesterday, but I saw yours, so I had to stop. What is it? And we were like, "It's the Cybertruck." And he's like, "What?" He'd never heard that word before. And we're like, "It's the Tesla Cybertruck," and he had to look it up. And then he asked a lot of great questions, like, well, can you put roof racks on it? We're like, "Yes." You can use this as a work truck. We showed him. He didn't know there was a pickup truck at first. He was just like, and then we opened the tonneau cover. The experience that's happening, and we've just experienced dozens and dozens of people who have this exact same experience. What is that? Is this an alien that just landed? Like their brain it turns to mush. And this is the exciting part here, guys. You know about the Cybertruck. You watch our show. You're in this bubble with us, right? So to you, it's just more about like learning more about it.
And you've been waiting for like 6 years for it.
The rest of the world has no idea. This guy couldn't find, it doesn't say Tesla anywhere on it, so he didn't even know what it was. And I get it because no other car in the world doesn't label itself. This is going to change everything. Like picture this scenario. Someone like him spots the Cybertruck, thinks like, what the heck is that? And then doesn't get an answer. He doesn't even know how to look it up. He goes to Google, because I tried this. Go to Google and say like, what is that shiny truck? You're probably not going to get the answer. So then he's going to go home and be like, oh my God, I can't figure this out. What was it? What was it? When
You might think that that's a bad thing. You might think, well, he doesn't have the information. You're too online. I'm sorry. Like you're too much in the year 2024. In the olden days, it would be a mystery.
Right.
And the mystery would live in you.
You would linger.
And you would linger and you would be thinking about it and you wouldn't know the answer to the question. And that is what drove people to do science and figure stuff out. But that is going to eventually drive this guy to either see another one and either stop the driver and figure out what it is, or to start asking questions, talk about it, Google it, figure it out. When they figure it out, it will be so much bigger to them than if they just do, that it says that it's the Dodge, flimble flamble. I guess that's what it is. No, he will have solved a mystery, which we don't ever have in our lives anymore. We have to play video games and read books in order to get this anymore. You don't have this mystery. So you have this mystery where people will see the car for a split second. They'll go, what the heck is that? And then they're either going to hear about it from a kid, an 8-year-old is going to tell, that's the Cybertruck. And they're going to go, tell me more, child, which is so cool. That's a Tesla. It's made by Elon Musk, blah, blah, blah. Like whatever, this guy is going to get the information to go Google it and figure it out.
And I think that the big deal here is that design is going to change everyone's brain. Like right now, you can see it and go, "That's ugly. It doesn't look like a pickup truck. I'm never going to buy it."
Nobody says that in real life.
It looks
here's the
insane.
thing: the pictures don't work. Pictures of the Cybertruck don't work because the wheels are too big.
Yes.
This is what I figured out. Everybody says, wow, look at those wheels. And also, it doesn't look the way that I thought it would because you have no frame of reference. Because it doesn't look like a normal car, you can't see what size is a human in relation to this. And so therefore you look at the wheels. The wheels are the only thing that are remotely recognizable. You say, well, if those are normal size wheels, this thing's tiny. Or this thing, and everyone says it's bigger than they thought it was. Oh, this thing's a lot bigger than I thought it would be. And it looks better because the proportions are right. In real life, people love the Cybertruck because it looks good in real life. And Tesla has somehow done this. Franz is a really good designer at designing cars, the Model 3 included, that look kind of weird in pictures, but then you see them in real life and you're like, that looks good.
Exactly.
And because it looks so weird. Because we've all seen nice cars. You may have seen a Ferrari or a Lamborghini at some point and you've gone like, whoa, nice car. You've never seen anything that looks like this. So when people see it, it doesn't matter who it is, right? Because normally only car guys are going to be like, oh, that's a Corvette. Oh, that's a Ferrari. And everyone else just goes like, nah, it's a nice car. I don't have to think about that. But when you see this and it's something that you've never f***ing seen before, you go, what is, whoa, I need to know what this is. What is this? And that is the response I've been getting. And most people are so happy to see me.
Yeah.
I'm driving down the road. I get nothing but smiles.
And I think that this is an interesting point here, which is the cognitive dissonance, right? Cognitive dissonance is when you can't hold two thoughts in your head that are disparate thoughts, different thoughts at the same time. It hurts your brain. So people are going to see this truck and go, meh, because they can't hold it, or they're going to
see pictures of it.
They're going to go, why aren't more trucks having steer-by-wire 48-volt architecture? Like, why not stainless steel? Why not this? Why not that? And once they get past that, maybe it's because the other trucks suck, they might start to go, this is the future.
I think that what Tesla did was so smart. It's so smart to have it be this physically impossible thing in people's minds, because you'll see a picture of it. It's not going to stick. It won't stick in your head. I mean, obviously it looks different, but it's not the physical thing. When you see it in real life, it has an effect on people's brains.
And I want to go one step further. We've talked about butts and seats. Most people, even if you're lucky enough to see one in the real world, you're not going to get to drive it. We have been fortunate enough now to have one and to drive it. It's another level. Once you experience driving in it, you go, oh my God, they got everything right. This is the future. And I just want to wrap up with this. This is your chance as a disruptive investor to understand what is coming. We're searching as investors all the time for the next big thing. That's who we are, right? You found it. This is it.
Yes.
This is going to disrupt the entire truck industry. If you think that's a small deal, think about the fact that Ford and GM and Ram are all built on that.
Yes.
They only live with their pickup truck. So once this gets to overtake them, which it will, they're gone. The whole companies I'm talking about are gone.
And Tesla has achieved something, and they achieved this way back in 2012, on how to destroy cognitive dissonance in people's minds. What they did back then was they had a car that could accelerate electrically one gear from 0 to 60 in like 4 seconds, right? Which is what the Cybertruck can do now. And they really nailed it to the point where if somebody got in the car, and I knew this back in 2016 when we got Sparky, we would get people in the car who were like, oh, I don't believe in electric vehicles and blah, blah, blah. You'd get them in the car, you sit them in the passenger seat, and you'd floor it. And they would go, whoa! And they would be like, oh, okay, my brain will not allow me to ignore this because that was real. What just happened to me was real, physical, caveman brain stuff.
Right. It pushed back all the other crap.
You're circumventing the like, I am an analytical thinker and I think this is stupid. You go back to the caveman part that goes, fun, me like this, woo, you know? You get that. Everything else flushes out of your brain. Okay, so Tesla did that really successfully. Then they tried a couple of different designs. The Model X was really great. You put up the Falcon Wing doors, people went, that is a fancy car. I want to know more about that car. But most of the time, you're not driving around with the doors open. So unfortunately, you just look kind of like a sexy minivan most of the time. Okay, that's fine. Model 3 and Model Y are affordable. That's great. They still have the acceleration. That's great. It's been expanding and speeding up the transition for sure. And they look good. And people might question, why do I see 400 of these on the road if I live in a populated area? Now you have the Cybertruck, which demands your attention. You cannot ignore it. People might not see it. I've been driving around and people are very oblivious. But when they see it, I have seen so many people, I'll look in the rearview mirror and people will just be like, I've driven past, I love doing this, drive past a school during lunchtime, which is between 10 and 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and the whole lunchroom stood up. There's a girls' table right at the window. I see all the girls. They're all standing up. I'm like, I'm sorry, elementary school-aged girls looking at a truck? Right. When has this ever happened before? Women love the truck. What? They love it. They want to know everything about it.
Yeah.
When has that ever happened? That has never happened.
That's another reason why I think that Tesla's going to overtake Ford.
When we had the Model X and when we had, the Model 3 and everything, we would go to car shows. We would be, out on the street. And it would always be the guy dragging some woman along. And he'd be like, look, honey, this is the thing that I'm thinking about. And she's like, great, that's great. I don't care. Cybertruck immediately, everybody drops what they're doing. They need to know what the heck this thing is.
Yep.
That is so powerful. That is so powerful. And there's only 8,000 of them on the road right now. What is going to happen when there's 100,000, when there's 1 million of these on the road?
Yep.
That experience, and there's a front. It's like a war. Like it's by street. People are looking, and they need to know what the heck that is. And it's going to impact culture. And that is the really, 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 really disruptive part of the Cybertruck, is the way that it looks. I know that it looks weird, but it is going to absolutely transition Tesla from being oh yeah, isn't that a whatever company, to, yeah, I saw one of them, then I looked it up, I can afford one. Not necessarily the truck, but maybe the Model 3 or the Y.
Oh, and I do think the truck is going to get affordable. Like
It
right
will.
now, if the ones you see are the Foundation series, they
Yep.
added on $20,000 because they could.
Yep.
But as they start moving forward, I will bet you anything they'll get it down to $60,000 or less. And that means that a whole bunch more people can afford it. And then it's off to the races.
Yep.
And again, disclaimer, we're not financial advisors. Don't take our advice as financial advice, because everybody's different and everyone has different risks. So do your own research.
But, oh man, am I more pumped than ever, because we are just at the beginning of this, and I get to see it every day with the Cybertruck. Every day I get to see people who I know are just like, that is going to be a topic of conversation. The number of phones that get whipped out. I've never seen people whip out their phones so quick. They're pulling out their phones on the highway. They're driving. I'm like, please don't hit my car, but take a picture. Right? They're going to show all their friends. They're going to look what I saw. Look what I saw. Oh my God, is it so exciting. Thank you so much for joining us here on Disruptive Investing. I'm so excited that we get to share all of this with you. We'll see you next week on Disruptive Investing.